I'm Cindy Coe.
I'm Matt Altman.
We are both college professors, so we got jobs at Central Washington University in 2003. And bought the house about 6 months after we moved to Ellensburg. And, just wanted to settle down. Then it's been, reconfigured upstairs to have, when the extension was put on in the 1980s. So it's a nice combination of kind of an older house, but then kind of updated. So it was a pretty typical process. I think there were renters in the house, and so it took some work to, repaint. And I think there was one plywood floor.
Oh,
I'm not sure what happened to it. We inherited this book that gave us a list of the full owners of the house since 1887, and so it just felt like a family. Like families had been in it for a long time. I joined a department where a lot of the people were older and about to retire, and so one of my older colleagues had been really good friends with people who had owned the house, not immediately before us, but a couple of times before that. And so we're familiar with the house, and we're really excited when we bought it. So, yeah, it was a nice process. It was pretty easy for us, and we've enjoyed the house since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were some quirks of the house.
Yes.
You mentioned the sort of subfloor that we put some hardwood over, and then there was just some painted wood floors in the front, and so we covered that with some carpet.
They were blue painted, like a deep blue. We have never heard the true story, like the full story, like definitively, but it's been there for, what did they say, at least 100 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's really grown into the tree, and if you walk around the back side of the whalebone, you can see a cut in it, like somebody tried to cut it out of the tree and really didn't get very far, because it's, it must be really hard at this point.
Yeah.
But basically the tree and the whalebone are one entity now. They've just completely grown together. So the most plausible story we heard is that a whaling captain from Alaska retired here and brought this back as a souvenir and, propped it against the tree, and then the tree grew around it. I have a cousin who's a marine biologist and once looked at it and thought, I think I'm remembering this right, that it's the jawbone of a right whale. But somebody just recently told me, I think right whales only are in the Atlantic, so I'm not totally sure that that's true.
And it may be a rib, too.
It might be a rib or a jawbone, but anyway, it's fun to have school kids come by, or little kids with their parents, like, what's that? And not everybody sees it. So some people, we have a sign on the front of the house that says Whalebone House, and some people say, why do you call that the Whalebone House? And then I'll just point to the whalebone in the tree, and they're like, oh, we thought that was part of the tree.
And there's some ways that the theme's been picked up in the house, like the wrought iron railing in the front. There's a whale in it. You can see that. And then upstairs to the bathroom, there's a stained glass window in it with the whalebone.
Yeah.
With the tree and the whalebone on it. And then in the back of the garage, there's just a whale shape in wood. So.
And then there are built-in cabinets in two of the bedrooms upstairs, and the handles are whales. So somebody cared a lot about it.
How fun.
Yeah. So it's just kind of nice to live in a house with that kind of character.
Every 10 years or so, there's a local story in the paper that says, hey, look at this. How'd this get here? We're not really sure.
Yeah.
There's
not
come up with.
a whole lot more information about where it came from.
Yeah. Every 10 years, reporters look into it, and what they always come back to was they think a whaling captain was here at some point and stuck it in the tree.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as they get.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think any of the people who owned the house necessarily were identified as whaling captains, so I don't know how those two stories go together, but yeah.
But it's it's one of the older houses in town. 1887.
Yeah.
Built in 1887, and so there's some really old pictures where you just see this house and not a whole lot around it.
Yeah.
So
it survived the fire, I guess, because the fire is 1891, something like that. In the book, there's really early on, there's a picture of just, like this house and a church next to it, and like just
not
fields
much else
around it.